On today's episode of the Going Deeper podcast, we are talking about assisted suicide. What's up, Fathom Church? Welcome to the Going Deeper podcast. This is your host, Kyle Knight. I'm here in the podcast studio with Pastor Chris. Hello, Pastor
Just
Chris.
me.
Just you.
Just me.
Karina's not here today, so it's just us.
Sad day.
Sad day. Sad day. And I want to give like a little disclaimer, as you've seen the title of this episode already, that we're going to be talking about some heavy stuff again, like we usually do here. But if this is something that talking about assisted suicide or anything in that realm that just might trigger you or might make you feel kind of a certain way, or if you have some young ones listening, this is your warning that you can skip this episode. But Chris, we're going to be talking about assisted suicide. Do you want to give some context about why we're talking about this now and what brought this up?
Yeah. So I was reading the news a few weeks ago, and there was an article in there about, I think it's a clinic in Boulder that helps now that assisted suicide or ending life compassionately or whatever the act is.
End of life options.
Yeah, there you go.
Something like that. Yeah.
Legally, there's a lot of rules and regs around this, but legally, certain physicians can aid in the ending of one's life. And I remember that when it was on the ballot. I remember a few years ago on the ballot, just thinking, how's this going to pass? And then it passed. And it's like, oh, okay. Right. So I was just reading in the news about that story and thought to myself, oh, okay, like we should probably talk about this. I think it was years ago I talked about suicide on another podcast. But this one, and we can probably even start there talking about suicide itself, but sure. Assisted suicide, how should Christians think about this? Is it caring? Is it compassionate? Is it moral? Or do we need to be against it? Do we need to I think thinking these things through will be really beneficial.
Sure.
For us. So that's kind of where this all started for me.
Sure. Yeah. What do you want to say about suicide first? Before we get into what is kind of a totally different realm of assisted suicide and what we're talking about that, but what did you want to say about suicide?
Yeah. I mean,
because I do think you recorded one long.
It was a long time ago. Yeah. I don't even know if we still have it up. So there's some misnomers about suicide that I think we just have to be clear about when we talk about this topic. First of all, I think good Christian theology teaches that suicide is a sin. So it is actually you're taking a life. That's one of the 10 commandments. That's murder. Even if it's self-murder, it's still murder. It's still taking a life. And so we would say that's a sin, though historically sometimes people have said it's the unpardonable sin. That if you take a life, your own life, you are in fact ditching God's sovereignty, taking your life into your own hands, literally, and therefore it is unforgivable. And I think that's bad theology too. I don't think that a suicide has more power than God's power to forgive sin. So, I don't think it's the unforgivable sin. I do think it's a very serious sin. I think it's, especially in our day and age of mental health, it's a very complex issue. It's a very personable issue. You know, I've done funerals for people in this who've taken their own lives. I mean, it's a heavy duty thing. Pastorally, we have to be very caring and understanding, but at the same time, we have to call it what it is, which is it's a tragedy and it is problematic.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I that's the Christian argument kind of recognizes and understands the psychological complexities that lead to something like that, while at the same time not giving an ounce of approval to that act.
Right. Yeah. And so I think that's a good place to start. And now we're not necessarily just talking about that, but this is assisted suicide. So what are we talking about when it comes to assisted suicide? Like for those who have maybe never even heard that term before, what does that look like? What is kind of the practice of it? And what like kind of what are, what do people do with assisted suicide? Like, what is it?
Well, I mean, I think they would say it's a compassionate way to help alleviate suffering from terminal patients. I don't know. I don't have in front of me the exact wording of the bill and what the law says, but I know. I mean, I've read a little bit on it that it in effect it's for people who have like very terminal illnesses to actually help them take their own life, normally through some sort of medication that will speed up what they would consider the inevitability of death. Yeah,
there's details of like that they're close to death. It's from 15 days down to 7 or 48 hours, something like that. But it's still nonetheless speeding up that process.
Yeah. And they've tried to make it into some sort of humane system that takes into consideration, one's mental state and I mean, all kinds of things. But that's the basic gist of the understanding of it. It's not like, hey, we just want to euthanize people, which I think you can cast it in that light. And it you might even could say there's some arguments that it could lead to that, but at least being the most charitable trying to be charitable with the idea. I think they're seeing horrific suffering in somebody and saying, it's actually humane to help them along.
Yeah. So, okay. So let's, in order to talk about this, and like, again, we're talking about death, we're talking about rushing death and all of this, and in a sense of trying to be compassionate, trying to be humane, whatever it is, in talking about assisted suicide, we have to start with, I think, talking about human life. And again, we've done this on the podcast before a little bit, but just give us a little, a little update, I guess, ish of what we believe, and talking about the sanctity of life, talking about what life is because that is of utmost importance when talking about these things.
Yes. So when we talk about sanctity of human life, we are essentially saying that because God has created every life, and within every life, there is what is intrinsically placed in every human life, the imago Dei, the image of God, because that is in every single human being from conception, we believe that intrinsically every human being has value, dignity, worth, deserves honor and respect, regardless of one's age, regardless of one's ability, regardless of one's mental state, regardless of one's gender, regardless of one's experiences, regardless of one's mental faculties, intelligence quotient, like fill in the blank. Intrinsically, you could be, legitimately on life support with 0 brainwaves, and that person, as long as they are still alive, is still a human being bearing the mark of the Creator and is therefore valuable. That's the sanctity of human life. It's why we fight for the preborn. It's why we love and support the idea of advancing medically. This is like medicine and care for the sick. What a gift. This is why Christians have been about hospitals. This is why Christians have been about orphan care. This is why Christians have been about end of life care. This is why we care about breaking down racial barriers. This is why we care about socioeconomics. This is why we care about missions and outreach. I mean, the sanctity of human life drives so much of our doctrine. The Imago Dei drives so much of our doctrine. And so that's what we mean when we're talking sanctity of human life. Every single human being, I mean, to the T, the most brilliant, Nobel Peace Prize winning person, all the way down to a severely handicapped child who offers almost nothing tangibly. Everybody is created with God's image and has value.
And so with that, knowing that we are all made in the image of God, we are to care for those who are dying, who are suffering, who are sick. With all of that, we would believe that in taking a life, whether it's murder or this assisted suicide, that is wrong.
Yeah. I mean, that's actually the first and biggest argument against physician assisted suicide, against suicide, but against physician assisted suicide is that, you are snuffing out the life that God has created that bears his image. And biblically, that's unethical. It's a moral compromise, and it's forbidden. It's a 10 commandment kind of thing.
Yeah. So then what, we've kind of talked a little bit about the fact that this could be turned into, okay, well, we are supposed to show love and compassion. What's the argument for assisted suicide? Does that,
right?
It in a sense, it makes sense of showing someone is suffering and you want to take that suffering away.
Yep.
But is this what's the argument for that?
I mean, essentially it's very humanistic. It's very materialistic. Not like I want to buy stuff, but material, as in the material world is all that matters.
Sure.
It does not consider the spiritual or, that sort of thing. It's an argument that essentially says all that matters is you being okay and you being comfortable and it's animalistic and it's materialistic, right? So we do this with animals.
Yeah.
We put our animals down to alleviate their misery, right? That's we would say that's the humane thing.
Right.
And if human beings are only animals, they bear no mark of the divine.
Right.
Okay. And if the material world is all that there is, then assisted suicide can be argued as being moral. It can be. At least you can make that argument. Okay.
Yeah.
But if the spark of the divine resides in every human, and if this temporal physical plane is not all that there is, then we're talking about something completely different, right? Because you are taking the life of someone who bears the mark of the Creator, and you are not considering what happens next. Paul doesn't say, well, you know what? To live is Christ, to die is gain. So I'm just going to die because it's going to be better.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, of course it's going to be better. You can't take a Christian. Paul says, no, I'm here. As long as I'm here, I'm working hard for the Lord. There's stuff that Christ has for me. And when I die, that will be a glorious thing. But you can't rush the second part of that.
Yeah. And I think that's important as we're thinking of, and you said it earlier, I mean, people in the worst of the worst states of suffering, of on their deathbed, that like they still have value. Like God is still, as much as it's like, God is still working in their suffering. As hard as that is when we are suffering or we have a family member suffering, to see anything good coming out of that, it is still life, and God is still in that person, and they are still like, he's got something for that life.
Right.
And that is the hard thing to wrap your mind around, as you are in, maybe you're faced with this situation with a loved one who is just not even there to really remember God has a purpose for this.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this, Chris, and maybe this is like more of a, when we're looking at the act or the law, whatever it is, like, what are the dangers of like normalizing this,
Yeah.
of normalizing assisted suicide, of voting on it and like it being approved? Like what are the, obviously I think we can kind of hint at what some of those are, but what are the dangers of normalizing this sort of thing?
So there's a lot of danger in it. I mean, and I could just keep going and going and going, but like, for example, there could be a danger in sometimes it's called like the slippery slope argument, where it's if public policy kind of drives this idea of assisted suicide too far and is allowable for some patients who are suffering, how can we prevent it from slippery sloping into like other areas?
Right.
So here's an example. Well, I'm suffering. Yeah, I don't have cancer or some advanced stage autoimmune disease that's causing me physical suffering. I'm experiencing unbelievable mental suffering. Why can't I voluntarily end my life? Right. So you can begin to slippery slope away from. So you've even already seen this. I mean, originally the law was 14 days. Now it's 7 days.
Yep.
Like, you're starting to see some of this already, where it's like, okay, waiting periods are diminishing and like standards are getting softer. And it's just like, okay, that's the slippery slope argument. So that's one problem that we could consider. Another piece that this could eventually turn into, and it already has in other nations, is involuntary assisted suicide, especially of the elderly, especially of those who have like memory care issues. So you think about dementia, you think about Alzheimer's. I mean, who's to make those decisions? Like who gets to make the decision if an Alzheimer's patient can commit suicide? Like those are really, I mean, very murky waters. And there's legitimately, like, I'm just reading this from my phone. In 2012, 4,188 people were euthanized in the Netherlands through a mix of sedatives and a lethal dose of muscle relaxants against their will.
Yikes.
I mean, because they were elderly.
Ugh.
Like, you start to this is it gets real gross real quick. So there's like the slippery slope arguments. There's all kinds of stuff like that. Additionally, some of the need to alleviate suffering drives medical advancement. And so if it's like, well, they're just, you reach a certain point with your treatment and it's not getting better, just end it. As opposed to, no, we keep pushing.
Yeah.
We keep trying to learn and provide new methods of care. Additionally, I'll just throw another one out there. Doctors don't really know. I mean, I love medical professionals. I'm so thankful for it. But like, well, you've got 6 months to live. Really? My mom was given less than 6 months to live multiple times.
Mhm.
And then she had an experimental treatment for her cancer and has been cancer-free for 10 years.
Mm.
So, you get that, you've got 6 weeks, you've got 2 weeks, you've got 2 days.
Right.
Okay. Says who? Nobody knows those things.
Right.
Like nobody knows those things. So you begin to negate the chances of like you're canceling out any chance of recovery,
Right.
and I'm not even I'm talking about medical recovery. How about the Lord healing someone?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So as Christians, we believe that. I'm just saying there's a lot of arguments that you can start spiraling into.
Sure. Okay. As we kind of wrap this conversation up, maybe more of a pastoral care kind of piece. How, man, if we have people in our church who, and we do, who are ill, who are suffering, how do we, a couple questions, how do we as a church come alongside those who are maybe terminally ill or suffering, or even in not at our church, but in our own lives? Like, how do we go through that process? And how can we support people who are kind of going through that process?
Yeah. I mean, I think again, we have institutionalized the care of the elderly and the care of the chronically ill and the very sick because it's become a burden on ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think some of this is kind of reclaiming some of our responsibility to those who are aging and to those who are sick.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I just know this from personal experience and then from familial experience that it's taxing, and guess what? It's taxing to have children.
Yeah.
And the Bible is pretty clear about this, that like there's this trajectory in life where when you're a child, you're completely dependent on your family. Mm-hmm. And then you become this independent, autonomous human being that, rolls around the planet for, 60, 70 years. Yeah. And then the end of life, you're again totally dependent. And we've kind of shuffled that off into institutions, but maybe there's a way we can care and show compassion for our family members, even our church family members, who are aging or who are ill, that can help them. Listen, I mean, the medical thing is a real thing. Alleviation of pain is a real thing. Yeah. And I think we want to, help people alleviate their pain, but there's there are more ways to alleviating pain than just ending life.
Right.
There are medical ways, but there are also emotional, social ways. There's prayer. Like, let's not negate that. I mean, there's just, this is a big issue and a big topic because it's an eroding of our society in some ways. Like when we stop, I was reading this article that says the direction a society takes on the question of euthanasia or assisted suicide is a reflection of how highly it values human life and how highly it values God's command not to murder. In societies where physician-assisted suicide becomes legal, it sets the stage for further erosion of the protection of human life. Some people will be thought too old to deserve medical treatment. Compassion and care for the elderly will diminish, and they will be more and more thought of as burdens to be cared for rather than valuable members of the society. And I think that's what's happened.
Yeah.
Whether we're talking suicide or not. Mm-hmm. I think we've diminished the value of the elderly and of those who are suffering to being a burden. And I just don't see that scripturally. Mm-hmm. So I think this should actually be a wake-up call for a lot of us to be like, I mean, as you're thinking of parents and grandparents who get older, how are you thinking about caring for them? Yeah. Like, these are things that if you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, you should be thinking about. If you're in your 50s, 60s, you should be practicing this with maybe your parents. Mm-hmm. If you're in your 70s and 80s, you should be having these conversations with your children, with your grandchildren about that, so that there's some plans in place and you can actually you can actually care for your family the way that you would want them to care for you.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Well, hey, I know this is a tough conversation, but I'm glad that we have a place where we can have these tough conversations. And again, church, if you are in the process of this or struggling with this or have more questions, please reach out to us. That's why we are here. Thank you, Pastor Chris, for having this discussion.
Thanks, buddy.
Thank you, church, for listening, and we'll catch you next time.